Blight Survival is one of the most violent yet intriguing games I've seen to date, with stunning visuals due to being created on Unreal Engine 5. This is why Blight Survival needs to be at the top of your list for upcoming games. Blight Survival is a 4-player, co-op, action horror, roguelite. Wait, what does that even mean? Roguelite? Every day's a school day, I guess. Back to the video. The 4-player co-op action horror is set in the unforgiving no man's land between two desperate states at ceaseless war. Basically, it's sort of like the plague, but instead of causing you a painful death, it causes you to mutate and transform into a half-living being. The new strain of the disease is referred to as the Blight, and coming into contact with it causes you to transform into a monster. Think sort of Resident Evil 4 vibes. With one last hope, all the rich blokes chuck all the coins together and invest it into sort of a medieval Fantastic Four, in which you and 3 other esteemed colleagues are tasked with ending the all-consuming blight and saving the world. You play as a knight in the 14th century, one who gives off strong Assassin's Creed vibes, and the footage shows our main protagonist hacking and slashing his way through what look like zombies towards his next location. The fighting mechanics are reminiscent of Dark Souls, but from the footage, just a little bit more violent, I'd say. The interesting thing about Blight Survival seems to be the many different routes that you can take in the game. The footage itself shows the knight hacking and slashing his way violently through the enemies, but in the next breath, you're commando crawling through the woods and sneaking up on enemies to get a stealthy kill. Now, I'm all for realism. There's one slight aspect here. That armor. How are you getting a stealth kill in that armor? You telling me that's not clinking when you're sneaking up on enemies? Anyway, this is backed up by a blog post from one of the developers. Also, quick side note, there's only 2 developers for the whole game, which considering the quality of the trailer is mind-blowing, to be honest. But basically, the devs blog post echoes the footage in the trailer. They discussed that the game is essentially a gameplay loop with numerous playthroughs. You will have this huge open world map to traverse through, but subtle elements will force you to adapt your gameplay to specific scenarios. These elements range from affecting the weather, spawn points, patrol points, and the time of the day/year. A key component that I actually missed during the first watch through was the role of the deadly fungi spores. The spores adapt and move around the map, again forcing you to change your tactics and react to what's in front of you. Add in the element of co-op play, and this game really blossoms from a hack, slash and loot to a game that focuses on adapting to survive and team-based communication. The progression mechanics are what we would expect for a game of this nature, with you starting the game with poor equipment and having to use your wits to locate newer, shinier equipment via the methods of killing, looting, and exploring. Sounds fairly standard, right? There's a catch. Should you die, you lose absolutely everything on death. So you need to be thoughtful of what you're carrying on your person at all times, and whether it might be worth storing that in a camp rather than risking losing it all. The good news is that you won't lose all of your hard-earned knowledge, so the XP grinders can rest safely, knowing that even if their character dies, they'll still be able to do all the fancy cartwheel tricks that they've taught the character. I feel like this is going to create some interesting in-game dynamics with it being co-op play, like your friends accidentally forgetting to come and save you at the correct time and then conveniently looting your dead body after they didn't make it to you. If you play Apex Legends, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Speaking of looting, this seems to be a key component of your progression in Blight Survival, as during the trailer we see the knight loot from various bodies and obtaining items such as clothing, materials, and even at one point the knight picks up a crossbow, indicating that the game will allow for both CQC and long-range combat. Loot management is key, so if you play too greedy like a scavenger and don't store your loot or sell it,
what are you selling?
Then all of your hard work can be lost in a matter of seconds, adding an extra element of stress to those random open world encounters. Now onto the visuals. They are absolutely stunning, which in fairness, this is what we would expect considering the game's going to be using Unreal Engine 5. But one thing that hugely impressed me during the footage was the use of the light leaks throughout the game. The way that the sunbeams alter the dynamics of the environment is truly breathtaking, and for such a dark and gloomy game at times, it really does catch you off guard when the environment changes and all of a sudden you're taking in these different surroundings. So now to the big question, when is the release date? Well, this one's a difficult one to answer. The game is currently in a pre-alpha state, and we've got to remember there are only 2 game developers working on this game, and both of them still have full-time jobs within the industry. They've been working on this game for approximately a year at the moment and are seeking funding to try and expand the team, but they still want to keep quite a close circle. So the short and unfortunate answer to this question is no time soon. In the meantime, why don't you check out this video where I discuss one of the best games you've never heard of.